inquiry and practice for the last period, I've had much interest in understanding the nature of the mind. Perhaps that is encouraged by the reading that I've been doing in Yoga Vasishta and Shankara's Quintessence of the Teachings. From a deep point of view, I know what is required for to understand the unreality of the mind of the character. Certainly, with that knowledge, then everything else becomes simple. Still, in trying to understand this in Yoga Vasishta and Quintessence of the teaching, they talk about the mind, and I think Yoga Vasishta talks about impure mind, pure mind. In Quintessence, I read about conditioned mind, unconditioned mind. I think they're still speaking of the same thing, just with different language. Somehow this seems to be an important step in for the seeker to take kind of on the way to Nome, if you will. And wanted to ask you about this and how to best use this kind of view of the mind in practice.
When the mind seems to be conditioned, by what is it conditioned? It cannot be by external circumstances, other people, things, events, etc., because all those exist only within the mind. Within one state of mind, the waking state.
So the conditioning really is just another thought.
Yes, and what is spoken of as a mind with conditions is a mind that is put on limitations. The limitations are the forms that are imagined within it. There is not some other factor conditioning it. It is conditioning itself. It is limiting itself. A mind that believes, that is, attributes reality to what it is imagined only within itself, is an outward-going mind. Within that context falls all duality. Within that occurs misidentification, attachment, and the rest of what is only a cause of bondage and futility in life. An inward-turned mind is one that is dissolving that attribution of validity to what is merely imagined. So within an inward-turned mind, the sense of identity, the sense of reality, and of course, happiness, are all being returned to their origin, to the rightful place, where they actually always are. Sri Bhagavan said the mind is only a bundle of thoughts. If you would cease to believe in the reality of your own thoughts, what would be left of your mind?
Seems almost like there one image I get of the reality of the mind is some kind of dog barking in the distance. It has nothing to do with you.
Yes.
It's being made for no purpose.
Within a great silence, some useless noise is being made. That is one way of looking at it. But with your inward turned mind, seek the very source or nature of your mind. If there's no dog, there's no barking.
As you talked here, you have talked, it seems like several times this year, probably also before that, and I was not hearing what you said, but you've talked about how do you know what is real. And it seems like what you have said here is just approaching that from a different angle. When I had, as I've meditated and inquired on how I know what is real, this is one of the things that has brought my focus to the mind, into the waking state mind, and I've seen in that inquiry and investigation that, what ordinarily I take to be real is the product of this waking state mind and nothing else. Except there still is reality beyond that doesn't include it somehow.
There is reality beyond whatever is conceived in the mind, and of course whatever is perceived by the senses. The vividness of that reality, one infinitesimal portion of that, is borrowed, as it were, to give what people refer to as their present experience, mental or physical, the quality of being real. The experiences keep changing. The quality of being real remains.
Always.
This tells us something. Mm-hmm. It tells us that the reality itself does not belong to the forms of any of those experiences. A thing cannot be real at one time and unreal at another. Reality will not change its nature, and the unreal will not change its nature. The unreal will not become real, and the real will not become unreal. The experiences, gross and subtle, sensed and mental, keep changing. They cannot be real at one time and unreal at another. If they're unreal at the beginning, unreal at the end, they are unreal even in the middle. What then is real all the time? The unreal is being, through imagination, merely superimposed on the reality. But the unreal has no actual substance. The reality is shining all the time. What you use to determine what is real very much goes into the make of what you consider to be. If, for example, someone takes the senses to be the determinants of reality, they will consider the world of phenomenal things and the body, the reality and their identity. Of course, if a person recognizes that the senses are not very accurate in showing reality, in fact, they don't show reality at all, then they will proceed to use something deeper or more interior to determine what is real, what exists. If thinking, the mind, is used as the measurement tool for reality, thoughts themselves will be regarded as real, with the present thought seeming to be the most vivid. This is no different than what happened with the senses, but it's more subtle. It's equally objective, equally unreal. How do you know thought is? When you have the idea, thought is, upon what is that idea based? If within the mind you have the thought, the mind is, upon what basis does that thought stand? Everything you know about the mind, including the very notion that it exists, depends on something that knows all the time, with or without thought. That which is the ultimate knower bears none of the attributes of the known. That absolute knower is pure consciousness. Pure consciousness plus the notion of thought as being existent comes out as the idea of I know it and a mind. Trace that mind to its source. Seek out its essence. See what is there.
It seems like that is the pure mind, which is no mind at all.
So Vedantic scriptures declare that the mind of the jnani is Brahman. It doesn't mean that there's an individual called jnani, and he has this thing called the mind, and his mind is of a special type called Brahman. It does not mean that. The jnani, the mind, Brahman, are all identical.
One thing that has really helped, and is a great aid now still, is reflecting on the reality of dreams and just comparing and contrasting that. But again, it's very clear that in the dreams, the sense of reality and existence are just the same as they are in the waking state. And again, this is a point now where I have no doubt. And that has to make me ask more questions about the reality in the waking state and what is really real.
If you go on inquiring like that, you will find the reality or pure existence, which is not a product of any mental state, waking, dreaming, not even dreamless sleep. Yes, what is real? The only way to know it is to answer, who am I?